All right, everyone. Today's the day that I start on the garage. This is gonna be a long journey, but not for you guys because you're watching it. So I need to get all of my crap out of here. I intentionally didn't put anything in the garage since I moved in that would make the floor greasy, dirty, grimy, anything like that, so I don't have to clean it. No degreaser, none of that, because it takes even longer. I didn't want to store anything in here, but obviously I have stuff that is garage bound. So I'm gonna take all of my stuff out here and put it in my house. And just like that, I cleared everything out, except for my tool. Echo! So usually the first step when you start working on a garage is gonna be to clean it. Like degrease, oil stains, all that kind of stuff. But this is a brand new garage. The only thing I have is some paint marks and a little bit of scuffs here and there from me moving stuff into the garage. So it's not anything that I need to be degreasing. It's brand new. So I'm gonna sweep it out, give it a nice little cleanup of all this dust and debris. And then there's two different ways to prep the surface before we go on and actually put the epoxy coating on. One is what comes with the kits. So I have them right here. There it is, the Epoxy Shield Rust-Oleum. It actually comes with an acid etcher. So you put the acid on the floor, it basically like eats away at it to give it like little grooves and pockets. It's like sanding before you paint. It gives something for that epoxy to hold on to. The second one is grinder. Now, the reason I chose to do a grinder, so I just got an angle grinder with an attachment here. This is a very old angle grinder and I hope it works. But I've got a diamond plate here just so I can scratch the surface. And if you watch my last video of when I did a walkthrough of this place, there are places that are high and low because they did put a coating on the top. It's not just the base concrete. So there is a coating on here. You can see all around the side they did that, but there's also some just around the floor that are high spots and low spots, and I don't want that when I'm finished. So I'm gonna go through here. This is gonna take the longest to do compared to the acid etching. However, the acid etching, you have to leave it on so it can do its stuff, and then you have to make sure you get all of it off. So you have to get a hose in, and then you have to wait for it to dry. Depending on your climate, it could take more than a day. This doesn't, it just gets dusty. Also for these, I really don't have any sort of attachments, and because this is so old, I don't know if they make any vacuum attachment. So if you have a new one, get a vacuum attachment. It's a little shroud that goes over this, and then you can pop your vacuum in there and it cuts down on dust, because the dust from this stuff is not good for you. You have to wear a really good mask when going through this. All right, got my fan blowing to get all that dust not in the house, just so I started a little bit just to see how things work, how it goes. I got my fan blowing all the dust that way. Like I said, don't do this if you don't have a proper mask. Just don't do it. I don't, but don't follow what I do. Don't. I've got this started, the fan blowing this way. I've got my garage door open. I'm gonna open it a little bit more because I can still see it's a tiny bit dusty in there. So I'm gonna open that up. I just wanted some privacy. And once I get this little walkway area done here, I'm gonna close my door so it doesn't go in my house. And then put some fans up in here. I'll have this one directly in front so it's not in my face, blows it away from me. And then probably put another fan out there so it's, you know, circulating the whole thing. So let's get set up here and get started. All right, I have got about half done, a little over half. You can see the difference there between the top coating that they put on and back to the bare concrete. You can see all the original cracks. Yeah, they covered the cracks, but it looks like they did not fill the cracks. So that's gonna be something I have to fix, which I didn't think I would have to do. So that sucks. All right, there we have it. The entire garage is now finished. And I can see all of the original cracks that were here before. And yeah, that stuff that they put over the top really didn't help. So I'm gonna have to get some crack filler, which I really don't wanna do because that means this whole project's gonna be delayed because this is my weekend. Oh wow, that's pretty. Obviously these masks are a whole lot better than the one that I have, M95. But still better to have a respirator, that's what you want. But a whole lot better to have this one than it was before. Anyway, I am all done. It looks pretty darn good in my opinion. So now what I gotta do is fill the cracks, and then once I'm done filling the cracks, that's gonna dry. Make sure I do a super clean sweep, so make sure I get all the dust off the walls, the doors. Dust is everywhere. All right, just got back from the store. So first thing I'm gonna do is grab my broom. I'm gonna sweep across here, grab my vacuum, which has seen better days now. It's all gross. I'm gonna suck up everything I possibly can that may be in those cracks. And I got concrete crack seal from Quikrete. I've heard mixed reviews on this one. I guess the biggest thing is consistency, which you have to shake the living heck out of this. And also color, but I don't care about color. All right, I have got my Quikrete, chop the top off of that. And I've also got a little putty knife, which is wet. Why is this wet? Anyway, with these two things, you have to do it kind of quickly because this stuff is meant to dry. So this is just to make sure everything maintains a smooth surface since I just got done smoothing everything out here. Well, smooth to a point. All right, so I've gone through and I've filled everything. You have to go over a few times because once you fill it up, it'll sink into the crack. And then when you come to look at it again, it's sunken in again. So you have to constantly recheck as it settles in the crack. But now that all of these are finally filled in and flattened out, I'll go ahead and check this in 24 hours to make sure everything looks good. All right, it has been 24 hours. And we can see how everything looks. So even though this still does have somewhat of a texture to it, because I tried to wipe up as much as I can to keep this texture, I still have a few tiny holes, but that's not gonna be a big issue since this whole thing's textured anyway. I got a majority of the cracks, so that's fine. I'm gonna run over this really, really quick, just very lightly with the grinder wheel that I have over there. Just real quick, go through all the little cracks just to make sure it's scuffed up enough for when I actually get to the epoxy. All right, we are finished. We have ground down the entire floor. I've cleaned the walls because of all the dust. I vacuumed out here, I swept out here. I got it as clean as humanly possible without putting water down, because if I put water down, then I've got to wait even longer to make sure no moisture stays in the concrete. Don't want that. So this is dry, it's swept, it's vacuumed, it's as clean as it's gonna be. So now we need to do the fun part, the actual epoxy. So I was stupid and I bought 2 1-car garage kits when it would have been cheaper just to buy the 2.5-car garage kit. So don't be stupid like me. This is what comes in the box. You've got a stir stick, the instructions, you've got this, which is the acid etching. I am not gonna do that step because I just ground down the entire thing because I had that top coat on there. So I'm not gonna be doing that. If you need to, really all that is just mixing it with water and pouring it out there. And then it eats away at it, and then you wash it off numerous amounts of times. Then you have to wait for it to dry forever. But we're done with that. We have a part A and a part B. Because I'm using 2 kits, mix them together so the color is consistent. So I'm gonna get a 5-gallon bucket. I'm gonna mix 2 of my part Bs. So add part B here and the one from the other kit into one big bucket. Mix it together very, very well. Make sure it's consistent. And then right when I'm about to use it, I'm gonna mix in the part As, give it a good mix, and do not mix in those flakes. That's once you roll it on, then you sprinkle everything onto it afterwards. It gives you a time limit for each one of these based on the temperature. So if it's between 60 and 70, you've got the best time. So 30 minutes after mixing, you can brush, 45 minutes rolling, and 2 hours, and that's its pot life. So you need to get everything done in 2 hours if it's within 60 to 70, 1.5 hours if it's 71 to 80, and 1 hour if it's 81 to 85. So make sure you know this so stuff doesn't start to cure and dry as you're using it. All right, as you can see, we're truly going DIY here. I've got a proper 5-gallon bucket. I've got a kitty litter pan and a roller that's too big for a new rolling fuzz pad thing. I got a used paintbrush over here. We're gonna make this work. right, it is pretty dark outside, so you might not be able to see, but I've got the whole thing all done. There we go. This is a better view here. You can see how there's still streaks and stuff where some of it's wet, some of it's dry. I would have liked to put, I had a lot left over, so I would have liked to put a thicker coat on, but that's kind of hard to do when you have a time limit, so it is what it is. And just like that, it's been 24 hours. So the big downside is I can still see the streaks with the light. All right, 48 hours, and it is still the same thing. You can see all the brush strokes, and really you can see all of the strokes that I went through on the brush. Like even looking straight down with the garage door open in the middle of the day, like I can see all of that. All right, 3 days, 72 hours. I can finally put the cars in here. But looking at this, yeah, mine does not look the same as the internet's. All right, it's been about a month. And of course it hasn't changed, but I've contacted the Rust-Oleum company and they said it's not supposed to look like this. So they sent me 2 more. So I'm going to attempt to fix this because it's not supposed to look like this. I couldn't find anyone else that had this issue. So what they told me to do was to sand the surface with 80 grit, which is what I have there and what I've already started on. So now I gotta go back through and do this again. And as you can see, the floor is starting to come along and we are sweeping out right now. Just got done sanding the whole place. So it looks a whole lot more dull. This has already been swept. It's just very dull. So that's what it's gonna look like after you're done sanding and then sweep the whole thing out. It's definitely nowhere as near as dusty as it was before, but all this stuff is being swept out. And once this is finished being swept, then we can finally put down the second coat. All right, so this one looks a little bit different from the other one. Still get the same stuff, the flakes and the etching thing, but they told me to sand, so I'm sanding. And this is the one that I've seen in all the other videos where it comes in a package with 2 compartments. You break it, you mix it, and then you pour it in. So it's the same thing as before. It's a part A and a part B. So that's what it looks like outside the bag. You can see this one says part A, that one says part B. So basically you're just going to roll it and then it's gonna pop this seal so they can mix together. You're gonna shake it together. And since I have 2, I need to make sure that they're mixed so there's not 2 different colors into the bucket. And then I'm gonna pour the bucket into that guy. That's right, I actually got the proper things. All right, finished up for the second time with the second coating. And yeah, I put it on as thick as I possibly could. I still had leftover after that. Got to keep the garage door open since I went through again and put the epoxy under there. I can already see I've got leaves of hell. All right, here we are. It has been about 24 hours and it looks much better than it did before. Look how glossy and smooth everything is. This is what it should look like. Much better. All right, the final product looks much, much, much better around this time. It's a lot glossier and everything looks a lot shinier. It's a lot smoother. I think this is how it's actually supposed to look. So finally, I've got this. I'm still wondering whether or not I want to do the clear coat over the top to really kind of make it pop and shiny and make it, you know, look and be protected for extra long time. But yeah, this is much better. I like this.